Hello, in this video we will discuss about the cutaneous wound healing. That is the basically during the injury of the skin. So the regeneration will be occur due to the mitosis, so the cell division as well as the clotting system. So we will discuss all things and the blood clotting as well as the scar tissue formation and the collagen as well as other things, fibrin, etc. etc. So let's begin to understand. Here is the person which that contain a barrier immunity. Barrier immunity means the skin, which that is the bigger organ throughout the body, and which that is sheet-like structure basically throughout the body contain hairs, and this is the basically the skin anatomy I am discussing in here. And in this way the hair is the hair shaft and inside the hair follicle. This hair follicle is attached with the blood vessel through a capillary, which that is the network of the capillary for nourishment of the hair. And in this way the hair is the subcutaneous gland which that gives the sebaceous gland. This is used for the nourishment and the shining of the hair. And this is the sweat gland used for the sweating, for thermoregulation. And here is the epidermis and dermis. Dermis contain blood vessel and sweat gland as well as the follicles, etc. And here is the subcutaneous tissue which contain a collagen which that is produced from the fibroblast. That is why the fibroblast is present in the in the subcutaneous tissue. So this is the subcutaneous tissue. Lower the subcutaneous tissue is the hypodermis. So this is the fat deposition, also the adipose tissue. So important thing is that the when barrier will damage the organism, promote the healing of the skin via a molecular and cellular mechanism. So here is the wound healing problem can be occurred through a chronic disease, aging, hypoxia, nutrition, stress, and infection, drug using, and genetics. Basically, the chronic disease can be diabetes and aging due to the less amount of the mitosis and hypoxia, the oxygen amount less. So the nutrition also depend. And here is the step of the regeneration, the cutaneous wound healing. So first is the acute wounds, and next is the coagulation and inflammation within the 2 days, fibroplasia and matrix synthesis. In this way the fibroblast will be synthesis the collagen and within the week, and the granulation tissue formation will be occur, and angiogenesis mean the blood vessel formation, while the contraction of the due to the fibroblast and matrix synthesis will lead to contraction of the wound and the remodeling within the month, and healed wound will be occur. So anyhow, in this way the three phases which that is important to learn for the wound healing, that is, let's begin to understand. First of all, I want to say that the phase of wound healing is a three phase, and skin wound healing is a complex process involving inter, interrelated and overloading mechanism, sorry, overlapping, not overloading, overlapping mechanism of cell migration and proliferation. So the migration mean movement toward the wound site, and proliferation mean the differentiation and the growth, meaning the mitosis will be increased, and synthesis of extracellular matrix. So the extracellular matrix will be synthesized for a collagen formation and fibrin as well as other due to the fibroblast activity, and growth factor and cytokines that coordinate the healing process. So that is why the injured cell, for example the epithelial cell or endothelial cell, injured, will produce the chemokines and cytokines, that is the inflammatory mediator, will produce the chemotactic movement of the neutrophil as well as other WBC and RBC also. RBC is basically move on the basis of circulatory system. So here is the step 1 is the inflammatory days, So this is the inflammation will be occur within the day. So this is here is the neutrophil are present as well as the rupturing of the blood vessel due to the injury of the skin. So the epidermis will be ruptured and the dermis is also will rupture. So the dermis is contain a keratinocyte and hypodermis is basically rupture and the hypodermis contain fibroblast. And on the other hand, the hypodermis contain fibroblast and the subcutaneous tissues contain a fat, collagen and fibroblast, and the fibroblast is also present in the hypodermis. So the fibroblast is important for the during the wound healing we will discuss. And release of cytokines and growth factor. There's cytokines and growth factor release from the wound healing site, wound site, and the wound site, a migration of leukocyte in the area. So the migration will be occur of the leukocyte toward the area. So the positive chemotactic movement because toward the chemical and activation of platelets. After the activation of platelets, the fibrin clot formation will be occur. So the fibrin will cover and the clot within the clot the restoring the local hemostasis formation. In this way, the blood will contain the neutrophil, basophil, mast cell. There are many WBC. And after this, acting as a provisional extracellular matrix, uh, extracellular matrix, the migration of blood cells is used. So that is why they're restoring the local hemostasis function. And the next is the second step is the proliferation within the week. And here is I am drawing again the structure of the skin which contain epidermis and dermis. Dermis contain a keratinocytes which that will become a dead keratinocyte, and Merkel cell is also present, and there are many things I am not understanding here. So yeah, here is the basically the fibroblast. These fibroblasts are present in the hypodermis. This fibroblast will produce the fibrin, and there are many things. And macrophage are present in the scar tissue formation. The scar fibrin will be covered, and in this way the clot formation and the epidermal growth factor, and the vascular epidermal growth factor and the endothelial growth factor will be increase. So this all will be basically you can understand increase in the migration and proliferation of the keratinocytes and fibroblast. So what is the function of fibroblast and keratinocyte? Keratinocyte is used for the production of again dead upper layers of the skin for the barrier immunity, while the fibroblast and endothelial cells and leukocytes. So the fibroblast is used for the production of collagen for the and other connective tissue function. So the fibroblast is produce also the fibrin and make the structural part of the skin. And endothelial cell, this endothelial cells and leukocyte in the wound increase, and the increasing is due to the increasing of these cells, the synthesis of extracellular matrix component and component and improve of angiogenesis will be occur. So the extracellular matrix will produce and improve of angiogenesis. So that is why these things will be occur. And reepithelialization mechanism. So the epithelial cell will be again the reepithelialization. So the remodeling is the last step that is covered within the month. So here is the extracellular matrix. This extracellular matrix remodeling with substitution of collagen 3. This collagen 3 for collagen 1 production, so that is converted into the collagen 1. Increase in the activity of apoptosis of provisional endothelial cell. So the apoptosis will be occur due to the injured cell. So the necrotic apoptosis, not a programmed apoptosis, but the necrotic apoptosis will be occur due to the injury. while the programmed cell death is known as the apoptosis, which that is basically the another part. So and myofibroblast of the injury, here is the injury of the myofibroblast and fibroblast will be of the injury site, and apoptosis of provisional endothelial cell, so that is the covering and to produce again the complete structure of the skin. So let's begin to understand. Here is the scar tissue formation, and in this way, on the other hand, here is the injured cell, that is the wound, and which that is gonna produce, and the number one is the fibroblast produce the fibrin clot formation. After the fibrin clot formation is the second step is the restoring the local hemostasis. The local hemostasis means the WBC, RBC will be restored. And after this, the platelets is the number one thing which that will be migrate, and the clotting will be occur. After the clotting will be occur, basically here the WBC and RBC will be restored, and that is known as the restoring the local hemostasis. And after this, the platelets basically trigger and produce the fibrin. This fibrin will create the strong clot of the scar tissues, the scar formation, and in this way the fibroblast activity, so the produce the increase, so the produce the collagen. This collagen deposition in the clotting side, and here is the debridement of necrotic tissue due to the neutrophil, and neutrophil will move inside. That is the basically the step 4. So the step 4 is the basically the necrotic tissue and phagocytosis of pathogen and antigen through a neutrophil. Neutrophil is the innate immune response. And on the other hand, after the eating the debris, the neutrophil produce the cytokines, pro-inflammatory cytokines, and interleukin 1 beta, tumor necrosis factor alpha, interleukin 8, and interleukin 6. This all things will use for the recruitment of other cells, other macrophage, and other cell. On the other hand, there are many growth factor will be produced from the neutrophil. Is basically the vascular endothelial growth factor, insulin like growth factor will be bind and vascular endothelial cell, and that will be bind with the fibroblast, and after this fibroblast binding the proliferation will be occur, and to the collagen formation will be occur, and the maturation will be occur to deposit into the fibroblast into the subcutaneous as well as the dermis. On the other hand, here is the fibroblast maturation, the proliferation to produce two type of cells, three type of cell. Fibroblast is also proliferate, while the keratinocytes will be produced, and proliferation to the keratinocytes and endothelial cell. So the endothelial cell proliferation due to the fibroblast response, and on the other hand the keratinocytes. And after few days later, macrophage activates to wound site and clear the deleterious area and antigen by phagocytosis through macrophage. But important thing you should need to understand, the neutrophil which that is endocytosed the pathogen will phagocytosed by the macrophage. So the macrophage which will clear the used neutrophil. So that is important thing you should need to understand. And in this way, the macrophage, which that is after the clearing the pathogenicity, so the epidermal growth factor will be produced, which that is basically the epidermal growth factor produced from, and this epidermal growth factor is the basically the uh, FGF VE. Basically here is the platelets also produce the cytokines, growth factor, interleukin, and tumor necrosis factor alpha for using the apoptosis of the cell, damaged cell, and fibroblasts and fibroblast growth factor, and platelets derived growth factor inflammation, which that is used for the growth of the fibroblast. So that is why the platelets play important role for the proliferation of the fibroblast. So the fibroblast is important for the deposition to the for the loose connection, as well as other fibrin production, and the skin healthy skin contain amount of fibroblast more. So here is the epidermal growth factors, and epidermal growth factors and tumor growth factor will be produced, which that is used for the proliferation of endothelial fibroblast endothelial cells, as well as fibroblast cell and keratinocytes. This all things proliferation lead to this stimulus triggers the loss of keratinocyte. So the loss of keratinocytes adhesion molecules and inhibiting the physical contact with desmosomes and hemidesmosomes. So important thing, this was the regeneration of the skin. So thanks for watching. Please make sure to subscribe, like and share. Bye. See you in